Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard video. Now before we jump into today's video, I would like to say a big thank you to Dustin Martin Boyd for sending in some awesome pictures of his Penal Legion. I have been looking forward to using these pictures ever since Dustin sent them in. I've got such a backlog that it's taken me a while to get around to using them, but I've been genuinely looking forward to using them because they are so cool. Even without the special effects, I just think the models are so thematic, so characterful. I think the head swaps and everything that have been done look great. So thank you for sending this picture in. These guys look just like some of the Emperor's finest scumbags. And I just really like it. So thanks for sending these pictures in. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use, please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com, and there will be a link down to the Facebook page in the description below, and the email address will be down there as well. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. So some of you may have noticed that I haven't posted anything in the last couple of days, and there's a few good reasons for that. Well, firstly, I didn't get any painting done really this week, unfortunately, so there was nothing really for the Mordian Mondays. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to record a battle report this weekend because my two main opponents that I play against for the battle report, Sam, or Sixes as he's getting to be known on the channel, and Johnny from my brother, they both ended up being in contact with someone who had the old Rona. Now both of them are absolutely fine, but they have to self-isolate. Even though Sam has had his first jab, it's his missus who's ended up getting it. She's, from what I know, she's absolutely fine. So again, everyone's okay, but the rules are the rules, and so everyone's had to self-isolate. So I found myself without an opponent. But that turned out to be okay, because I've spent the last few days soul-searching. It feels like such a dramatic term, soul-searching. Seriously reflecting upon the competitive state of Guard in 9th edition. Because I've been able to get lots of games in recently with my Guard, and I've been able to play a wide variety of lists, from semi-competitive through to genuinely top-tier tournament-winning lists, or what my opponent is planning to take to a tournament to win with. You know, he's not messing around. And it's been a bumpy road, and it's interesting because some of you, I've done videos recently about trying to, how to get Guard to work, and I'm going to be buying demolition cannons, all this kind of stuff. It's really tricky, and I think to sum it up, we're not in a good place. Now, before everyone signs off this video and says, "Look, Morning Glory, it's just a salt video," I'm going to make sure this video is definitely not salty. I'm going to be laughing. It's going to be jovial. It's going to be very casual. It's going to be very objective. It's not going to be salty. But the overhead summary is, the top line summary is, guys, we're not in a good place. And when I talk about Guard not being in a good place, let me be specific to the criteria that I am attributing to this, so we all know what I mean. I am talking about your standard Guard codex. I'm not leaning on Forge World here, though I will acknowledge that there is, the Pony Club, and that the horsies can, Deathclaw of Krieg, Deathrise can do really well. But we're talking your standalone Guard codex. And the reality is, I think we've all got to face this now, is that Guard is in a really tough spot. And it is only... It was only the fact that Tau were down here and the mucker with us that sort of misery loves company kind of thing. But now Tau have gone and found a brilliant list that that works, and so we're not even, so we can't even say at least we're still better than Tau, because we're not, because Tau, Farsight Enclave, Farsight Bomb has lain dormant since 5th edition, 6th edition. It has lain dormant, but by God, it is back with a vengeance now. It's so funny how these things always come. It's why you should never sell Warhammers, because things always come back round. But in a horrible sort of way for us, things have come back round. But we back in 7th edition now, boys. We are back in terms of where Guard is placing. We are in the dark days of 7th edition. And the thing is that, does that mean that there's no point in playing? Does that mean there's no point in turning up? Absolutely not. I guarantee you there is a list out there. We just have to find it. I guarantee you that there will be a build, like the Tau community will, someone, I'm not saying it's me by any stretch of the imagination, but someone will come up with something that works. But the general state of competitive guard, so I should be clear, we're talking about regular guard here, we're not talking about Scions. We're talking about your regular, your classic guard, your tanks, your infantry and your officers. That's what we're talking about here. And your classic guard, I think, without being able to lean on Forge World crutches, without being able to lean on Militarum Tempestus, I think your classic guard, your typical guard commander, is, unfortunately, we're in bottom tier now. We're in bottom tier. And what's happening, and what you will have noticed in my battle reports, the ones that I've done on my brother's channel, the ones that I've done on my channel, is that, unfortunately, when I say we're back in 7th edition now, what do I mean? I mean that there is no more room for fluffy upgrades. There's no more room for niceties. We're back in the situation where we need to be running at 100% efficiency. Ironically, because of the picture I've got on the moment, but no flamers. Okay, no time for flamers. No time for grenade launchers. No time for sniper rifles. No. There's only 2 special weapons you should be turning up with now: plasma and melter. Okay, you can't afford to be nice. You can't afford the luxury of being nice. Those power swords and bolt pistols and plasma pistols that you were putting on your officers, they've got to go. Everyone's running a las pistol and chainsword now. Anything else is an indulgence that we can't afford. Okay, so that's what I mean. So we have to run absolutely cutthroat lists. That's the sad fact of it, really. And if we do that, then we will have, and I say this with straight face, we will have a good time. We will go into our events and we will be able to go against the majority of people that we turn up against, and we'll be able to, do something. And maybe even win a couple of events. However, there is a ceiling. There is a ceiling, a glass ceiling that the guard are trying to break through. There is a glass ceiling, or there's a ceiling, I should say. And unfortunately, there is almost a two-tier system going on at the moment in 9th edition. And we can bring our best lists and we can fight everyone else's mid-tier, semi-competitive lists. But the moment that we come across, and this is just being objective, guys. This is just being totally, I'm not emotional, it's almost cathartic talking about it. But the problem is that we're at the stage now where some lists and some armies, I think the best way of describing it is like, they're not really playing the same game as the rest of us. There's armies out now which are just in a different league. They're in a different tier. It's not even S tier, top tier, middle tier, bottom tier anymore. They are in their own something else, something above S tier, God tier. I don't know. They're just in something. They're just in something else. And the moment that you come across one of those lists, the game is over before it has begun. And we are in that. We are now in the situation where there are certain matchups and there are certain lists and there are certain armies that you cannot win. You can roll, even if you roll sixes, just roll sixes, bro. That's the best advice I can give you. Just roll sixes. Even for morale, don't worry about it. It'll balance out. Just roll sixes. But jokes aside, that the game is, unless luck goes phenomenally your way and goes phenomenally badly for your opponent, you cannot do anything about it, unfortunately. As guard, we're talking from a guard perspective here, and so and I think the best thing we can almost do in that regard is acknowledge that fact. We acknowledge it, and I think there are certain scenarios that we're in now where it's like, look, you've got to accept that you're going to be going down swinging, but it's best to go down with pride than to just get salty and give up. It's better to do it that way. And so some examples of this are, I mean, we're all aware of how fantastic Drukhari are. And even after their nerf, they're still incredible. But now, you know, you have, I think an example I would use is I was very fortunate. It might sound odd because there's no polite way of putting it. Cover your children's ears. I got my ass reconstructed, okay, but not in a way that I would have preferred, okay. I got absolutely like obliterated by the new sisters, and I played against them yesterday. And total hats off to my opponent. He explained everything that he was doing and ran me through it. But they're just playing in a different league. You know, and I think they're playing in a different league to everyone else. And this list has gone 3-0, and it's taken on the best Space Marine list that can be put together. We're talking Vanguard Veterans, we're talking White Scars. You know, we're talking the best Space Marine list that you can come up with, and it has just destroyed it in one turn. It has gone up against the best Necron list and destroyed it in one turn. And now I'm going up against it with the best guard list that I can possibly fathom. And if I was being salty, I might as well have not turned up. But obviously I am going to turn up because I have to face it and I have to learn it. And with experience, maybe I will be able to figure out a way around it. But I'm starting on from a different position. But you know, what do I mean by that? You know, I need to give examples to back up what the F I'm talking about, right? So there's we're playing we're playing with my army, which in the command phase with guard, you get a command point, okay? And the orders that you can do, we don't have auras, so the orders that we can do, the buffs that we can put on units, are relatively simplistic. So I have an order that allows me to reroll ones to shoot, or I can put an order on that unit to do reroll ones to wound. And by and large, you know, outside of like relics or whatever, by and large, I have that choice of reroll ones to hit or reroll ones to wound. Of course, there's first rank, fast rank, fire, and all these kind of things. And of course, there's fall back and shoot and all this kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. But let me use these orders as an example. So I can choose to do one or the other on a unit. But if you take the sister, for example, you have the new High Lord of Terror character, and she gives everyone around a reroll ones to hit and reroll ones to wound from straight away. But then in addition to that, she can put full rerolls to hit on like a single unit. Okay, so not only are those units getting, you know, getting more than +1 to hit, you know, more than just what we can put on one unit. They're getting double. They're getting rerolls to ones to hit and reroll ones to wound. But at the same time, there's also, I'll just buff up this block of Repentia, and now that block of Repentia will get like some sort of full rerolls, or not. They get it from Zealot, to be fair. So, but you can put it on the new Sacrosancts, for example. But there's also ways. Okay, my priest will roll a 3+, and he will do a war hymn, and it'll put that war hymn on a unit, and it'll give them +1 to hit. And now that unit doesn't even need to stay in range of the priest. He buffs them up, and then off they go. Which is, so you don't even need to stay in range of your auras now. You know, stay in range of your characters. And you know, I've got another character that can just give 3d6 to charge to, you know, my Sister Repentia can just give 3d6 charge to my regular Repentia, Mistress of Redemption, which is called. And then you have army-wide buffs. So not only are they getting regiment traits or order traits, you know, and they're getting good ones, you know, +1 attack and loads of stuff. But on top of your Bloody Rose, for example, but on top of that, they then have the army-wide buffs. And unlike, you know, even things like command protocols or combat doctrines, these things are active every turn, and there's no you have to switch out of it. You just pick a good one and you stay in it the whole time. It's a bit like when Imperial Fists could just stay in Devastator Doctrine because it was fantastic for them, and everyone acknowledged that that was a bit broken. So you had to move, that's why they changed, so you had to move through the combat doctrines. Well, for example, you know, Sisters, they don't have to move through anything if they don't want to. And they're just playing a different game. They're playing a different game to the rest of us. And it's just acknowledging that, and it's just Guard are in a really tricky spot at the moment. But what I would say is, you know, you just build. How do we get around this? You know, how do we? All right, Morning Glory. We know where we are. How do we get around this? It's a fantastic question. I am still trying to find lists and whatnot that will give us that fighting chance. It's a really funny thing because I think we've got to this point now where the lethality is so high that even pure infantry, because our infantry is so expensive now. I mean, we've gone from paying 90 points for a conscript blob to paying 150 points. You know, our guys are so expensive now, but the lethality has gone up. That pure infantry, I'm really struggling to make it work because I used to be able to turn up with 250 bodies and at least console myself with the fact that I wasn't going to get tabled. I cannot make that guarantee anymore. I cannot. And even in the darkest days of 7th edition, you know, I could at least guarantee myself that. I can't even guarantee myself that anymore. So the best thing we can do is basically, what we have to do is we have to build our list as good as possible. Okay, we've had our fun. You know, they say we ain't in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We ain't in 8th edition anymore, guys. Okay? We in 9th, boys. We in 7 2.0, lads. And we've got to accept that. And so if we want to, and again, this is all through the lens of competitive play. When you're playing against your mates back home, you know, run whatever the heck you want. I do. You know, I have fun doing it. And that's what it's all about having fun. But we're talking competitively, it's time to stop messing around. You know, it's time to, we have to be as cutthroat as possible. No fluffy upgrades. You've got to squeeze every penny. You've got to squeeze every point. And then at least you can go to a tournament and do respectably. You won't win. Okay? Well, we're talking about proper competitive. There's always rogue trader tournaments, you know, whatever the RTTs. I always think it's that's a rogue trader tournament. There's always your local tournaments that you might, you'll be fine in. But we're talking, you know, the proper competitive scene here. And if you turn up with a really, really, really good, strong Guard list, you will smash through those mid-tier lists. You'll have a great time. You'll get yourself into the top half of that tournament. You'll get yourself going, 3-2 at a tournament, 4-1 at a tournament. You'll do it. You'll do really, really well. But you will have to accept the fact that unless you're fantastically lucky, you're going to come across a list. You're going to come across an army that you can't beat, and you are going to, unfortunately, you are going to just be playing a different game to them, and they're going to beat you. But as long as you sort of accept that, and you're like, okay, and you might come across that in your first game. You're like, okay, I've had the bad game out of the way now. Now it's time to submarine and climb up from the bottom tables and actually end up doing well. The best I've ever done in my Guard tournaments is when I've done what's called submarining, which is where you lose the first game and get pushed right to the bottom, but then you end up winning the next 4 games in a row. Because you're smashing your way through the lower tables, and then you get to the top tables. And that's how I actually, when I went 4-1 with Steel Legion in 8th edition, when tanks couldn't shoot into combat, I went 4-1 because I submarined. I got absolutely trounced my first game, and then just submarined and went and didn't face any other horrendous lists. So that's definitely an approach to take. I can guarantee you that if you play your heart out and you really take the best possible list, and you ask yourself, look, you force yourself, I'm not going to take that power sword. I'm not going to take that fluffy upgrade. I'm not doing it. I refuse. I guarantee you, if you're ruthless with yourself and you take that as the list that you can take as competitively as possible, I guarantee you'll get a positive KD ratio. You'll go 3-2. you'll go, at worst you'll go like 2 and 3, but you know, you'll do okay. But I think there will, you know, I think more than likely you're going to go 3 and 2 rather than 4 and 1. But I think, you know, you'll just come across the occasional, you're guaranteed to come across a list that you can't beat, unfortunately. That's where we are in 9th edition, and that's where Guard are in 9th edition as well. So hopefully that's not too depressing. Hopefully that's not been too salty at all. I hope you guys can agree with that sentiment. Now, there's one thing I do want to touch on, and I know this video has gone on a little bit already, but I'm okay with this being a bit of an extended episode. So there's 2 things that I want to point at, okay? And the first one is Forge World. And Forge World can very much be a crutch. And unlike in previous editions, really thanks to 8th edition and now 9th edition, most Forge World is considered mainstream. Now a lot of people will be like, well, wasn't it always considered mainstream? No. Forge World was banned. Named characters were banned from a lot of events back in the day. But those restrictions by and large are gone now. And Forge World can really be a viable crutch that we can lean on as players. Specifically, we're talking about the Pony Club. Now, the Pony Club is where you take Death Riders and you spam the crap out of them. They have gone up in points a little bit, but they're still the most point for point, even better than Bulgrin, the most drawable unit we've got. And I think they are, if we're going to go competitively, I think they are the way to go, along with Bulgrins. I think they are durability. I think pure infantry, just we're talking conscripts, guardsmen, stuff like that. I now don't think that is the best way to go for guard. I think you can really meme it and just take conscript and las rifles and then literally turn up with like 400 bodies, or not quite, like 350 bodies and some mandatory HQ choices. You can turn up with that, and you'll win, because you will win some games. But I think, you know, your standard 250 guard list, I think it's going to struggle. I've got to play. I'm taking a 250 man guard, 260 man guard list to this tournament at the weekend, so I may eat these words. But my prediction is that it's going to be tricky. I think now, you know, you want pure infantry, you want infantry, but you need to be lacing it. Not even sprinkling it, we're talking you need to be threading it, you need to be marinating it with Bulgrin blobs, you need to be marinating it with the Pony Club. You need some indirect fire, you need some manticores, full payload, you need some, cram as much indirect fire in there as possible. I think that's really sort of the way to go. You've got to do a bit more of a World War I list with your cavalry and your infantry and your indirect fire. I think that's potentially really, really strong. On the other side, I think that, you know, spamming tanks is potentially viable, but again, I think it will get you to those mid-tier tables and then you'll struggle. The other exception to this, though, so you've got the Pony Club, which I think is Forge World crutch. It's like, you know, just injecting just some competitiveness straight into your veins, get rid of all those conscripts, replace them with ponies, turn it with 45 ponies, it's almost an unbreakable screen, you'll have a great time. I think that's really, really, really viable. The other exception to this, though, is Scions. I have played my Scions competitively in half a dozen games, and I won every single one. Okay? But the reason I haven't battle reported them before anyone asks is because I was proxying models. Okay? I have run my guard, my regular guard, from pure infantry through to pure tank and everything in between. And I have won one game with my pure infantry list, but I literally took 95% casualties, and I won on points alone. And that was against a semi-competitive AdMech list with the old codex. And I have won, I've played, and I've won one game. I'm trying to think. Yes, I believe I've won one game with my Steel Legion as well. And again, and that was against, I wouldn't call it semi-competitive. It's semi-competitive by the fact that it was Marines, but it, you know, it wasn't a great list. It was, my opponent was just trying like a Primaris foot tied out, and unfortunately it just didn't work. And we're talking like intercessors, and we're not talking like aggressors or blade guards, stuff like that. Like a black tide, but with intercessors. And I did really, really well there. So I've won those 2 games. I have played in total about 10 games with my guard, and I've lost 8 of them. Now, a lot of those were, you know, me trying stuff out and trying wacky stuff, and I'm going through my competitive list. But what I can tell you is, in all the games that I lost with my guard, I was there thinking at the back of my mind, like, flipping heck, or, you know, fucking hell. I really, really wish I had my Scions right now. Because this game yesterday versus the Sisters, for example, I would have won it. I'm confident I would have won that game. Because the Scions have the firepower. So my opponent's list was like Repentia and Sacrosanct. No problem, mate. I'll Torx prime down your Repentia. I won't let your what the heck are they called? The Retributors. I won't let your Retributors see any vehicles turn 1 because I'll hide behind lines like blocking terrain because Torx primes are really small. So turn 1, you can do what you want. You know, flood the mid-board, flood the objectives. I don't care. My turn 1, I'm going to gun down so much with Torx primed. I'm going to be deep striking Scions out. You will be on your act of faith. You'll be on your invulnerable save the whole game. You will not be on anything else. And you know that is really, really powerful. So I think for me, I'm looking at Scions. I still see Scions as a bit of a sub faction, but I see Scions as really, really the way to go for competitive guard now. Which is a mad world we live in. But it's cool. It's cool. You know, I'm okay with Scions being competitive. I'm sad that regular guard is struggling, but I will temper that sadness with Scions being literally, I'm not joking, I'm talking top tier. I think you can take a Scion top tier army to an event and you could do well with it. I think you could take on Farsight Bomb. I think you could take on Drukhari with it, and I think it would be in the dice. So that's where I'm looking now. That's why on my painting desk now I have Scions. That's where I'm looking. So it's going to be interesting, guys. But that's where I think if you want to play guard competitively now, that's the avenue you're going to have to go down. And I personally, I'm okay with that because whilst it can be frustrating that my regular guard are struggling, Scions are cool. Whether you like the models or not, the fact that you can take the best of the guard now, and you can go up against, you know, which are regular. Scions are very much regular dudes. You know, they are the best. You can have them as the fluff from where they're all in Scholar Progenium, or you can have them as just being an elite regiment. But the point is that there is something extremely cool about Scions going up against, you know, the Emperor's finest, the foulest Xenos, and kicking ass. You know, from Marines to Sisters to Death Guard to anyone, and Scions just kicking ass. That is cool. And how I sort of how I would differentiate the difference between, if you're trying to mentally, you know, if you're like, oh, I don't really like Scions, this is how I would describe it. Scions are cool, but guard are noble. You know, guard aren't. They're cool, but it's a different kind of cool. You know, okay, guard are epic and noble and valorous, and you know, and they fight against the odds, and they are just some brave, beautiful motherfuckers. You know, they're really on. You know, guard are tragic but beautiful. Scions are cool. They are calm. They are collected. They don't throw themselves away in bayonet charges, which are you know, some of the most beautiful things that beholds in a guard platoon bayonet charge. You know, demon primarch. You know, those brave sons of bitches. They're going to go down swinging. That's the guard routine. The Scions, they drop down, they establish a kill zone, they light up the target, elimination, they have like protocols, elimination protocol, engaged. And they just delete the Demon Primarch. Because they are cool. And that is the difference between the two factions. And that's why I'm okay with Scions being like the top way of playing guard, because, you know, if someone turns up to an event with a pure Scion army, you are going to turn heads. People are going to know that you mean business and that you're pretty dedicated to collecting one of the nichest but also coolest armies in 40k. So that's why I'm okay with Scions being competitive. Anyway, so that is post-lockdown, tournaments rolling. That is the current state of all aspects of the Guard in 9th edition. I am certain, to end on a positive note, I am certain that there is a list out there which will do for us what Farsight Bomb is doing for the Tau. I'm sure it's out there. I'm going to find my hardest to find it. I'm going to try my hardest to find it. But I reckon that list is in the Scions. I reckon it's in the Scions. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Lots of feedback. I hope I kept this video salt content to a minimum. But you know, let's let me know. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Tomorrow's video will be me going through the list that I will be taking to the event. I may do a Friday video or not, but it might be because I'm travelling down to the tournament the night before. So if I get something recorded in time, and I'm feverishly painting stuff up for the tournament, if I get stuff painted in time, then I will, of course, you know, I'll do the Friday video. If not, I will do something on. I'll do 5 videos on next week to make up for it, for this week being a bit, you know, light on content. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and of course, see you guys next time.